Welcome to the Diabetes Podcast, where real stories meet real science, helping you take charge, not just take medicine. Today's episode is about something most people get completely backwards, the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. The idea that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. But when it comes to health, most people are doing it in reverse, spending 80% of their energy on the tiny things that barely matter, while ignoring the few big habits that change everything. In today's episode, we'll talk about why that happens, how the wellness industry keeps people distracted, and what the real 20% looks like when your goal is diabetes remission and metabolic health that actually lasts. If you're tired of trying everything and still not seeing results, this episode will help you refocus your energy where it counts and finally start moving the needle in the right direction. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Diabetes Podcast. I'm Richie.
And I'm Amber.
And Amber, today we're talking about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, and how this applies to health, how it applies to blood sugars, and how it applies to specifically type 2 diabetes remission.
Yeah, it's about this idea that 80% of the results that you see, the outcomes that you get, are from about 20% of your actions. And that's the Pareto principle. And as you said in the intro, most people do live it backwards. They spend 80% of their time and energy following things that don't matter, paying attention to these tiny details that barely move the needle, and then wonder why they're exhausted, frustrated, still just not getting anywhere that they want to be with their blood sugars. And so usually they're focusing on things that have them feeling productive, but really don't change the outcomes. I've seen it, like some recent examples would be red dye. That's a big one that's circulating around. Seed oils, supplements just as a whole. And
I'm going to throw it out there. Beef tallow.
Oh my gosh, don't do that. And meanwhile, oh my gosh, they're triggered. Sorry. And meanwhile, just the blood sugars are not where people want to see them. They're still running high. Sleep is disturbed and broken, and just energy is not there that people want to see. I think it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. You're busy, you're moving, but that iceberg's still there, and that boat is still going to sink.
And so today we're going to talk about not moving deck chairs around the Titanic, how to maybe actually, I don't know, avoid hitting the iceberg in the first place.
That'd be great. Yeah. If you could know that iceberg's there, know that this part of the Arctic is just full of icebergs. So, hey, let's just not go that way. No, maybe, I don't know if the route could have been different. I'm getting off on a tangent. Yeah, just don't.
Don't hit the iceberg.
Yeah, don't do it. Because you don't have to do all the things. You just have to find the 20% of the few things that are going to really drive the biggest change. And that's the focus of this podcast.
So let's start with, I think, why do people tend to get stuck on the wrong 80%? And then maybe we'll get into a little bit about what that 80% is.
Yeah. I think it's pretty simple in that, and there's a very emotional cause of it, and it's because the little things feel easier to control. Mm-hmm. You can go buy a supplement. You can switch the type of salt that you're using. You like pink Himalayan salt specifically is what I'm thinking of there. You can cut out red dye, and all these things give you a sense of progress. And the wellness industry profits from that. It sells quick fixes, powders, potions, lab work, these bogus lab work programs, instead of like really teaching people the simple fundamentals that change physiology. I'm talking about like really pulling those levers that actually will heal your metabolism. When you focus on these little tiny things, I think of putting new paint on a house with a cracked foundation. It's ridiculous.
I think Jeff Foxworthy said, putting a new chandelier in a haunted house. I think that was the he used. So what?
You've got a lot of Jeff Foxworthy. Like, I never knew you had so many Jeff Foxworthy references. Like, who knew?
Back in the day, that you might be a redneck. That was some solid stuff.
All right.
So what are some of the examples, or I think you talked a little bit about Himalayan salt. What are some more of the most common examples that you see as a dietitian and a diabetes educator?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with food. Since I am more as a dietitian, I just like to start there. And so you would see someone cutting out gluten, for example. Yeah.
Okay. I feel the need, just a little bit of a tangent, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Who doesn't need to be eating gluten? Because there is a lot of gluten-free, I think, noise that is just not appropriate for, let's just say, most people. So there are some people that do not need to be eating gluten. Is it just a select portion of the population, or is it a...
Yeah. And what's so interesting about that from the perspective of the diabetes podcast is gluten-sensitive enteropathy, or celiac sprue, is actually very disproportionately affecting people who have type 1 diabetes. Huh. So you might see it more in diabetes circles, but specifically with type 1, because type 1 is autoimmune, as is gluten-sensitive enteropathy or celiac sprue. It is an allergy to the wheat.
My understanding is it's most common in people that are of Eastern European descent. Yep. Is that correct?
That is correct. Okay. Yes. So if you have an allergic reaction to wheat gluten, then you should avoid wheat gluten. Avoid it. It's interesting to me when I hear people say that they're allergic to it, but then they'll have it sometimes. And so if you're allergic to peanuts, you're not going to sometimes have peanuts. You might cut out dairy, which I don't even know that that's really a good example, because there are some good studies on the benefits of taking dairy out of your diet. But pasta, rice, I see a lot of people they don't eat pasta, rice, or bread because it raises my blood sugar too much. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But there are reasons for the high blood sugars that can come with pasta and rice. And we've talked about this before, where it just has a higher volume of carbohydrates per serving. So you say that you're avoiding this, but you're ignoring the portion size, because you could have brown rice, you could have whole wheat pasta, and you could have a sensible portion size of that and not be getting any kind of ill effects from it. Or the timing. It's a different thing to have half a cup of pasta here and a half a cup of rice over here versus a whole entire plate of pasta. Yeah. And there's a big difference between refined grains and whole grains as well. All of that. Or getting back to focusing on the wrong things, like you're focusing all of that, but you're ignoring the fact that maybe most of your calories are coming from ultra processed foods. Or avoid fruit and bananas on one hand, and on the other hand, you have a Starbucks Frappuccino with 60 grams of carbs of sugar, like every morning. Yeah.
Is there any other examples that you can think of?
Yeah, you take berberine as an example. A lot of people are like, I don't want medicine. I'll do the alternative form of that medicine. Well, berberine can have many of the same effects. And yes, it's natural, but it's not, you don't know what amount is in there. There's no quality control measures on the supplement industry, whereas the pharmaceutical industry, if you say it's 500 milligrams, it's 500 milligrams. With berberine, you don't know if you're getting a lot of the effective compound in one dose and none in the next. Like, you just don't know. And the side effects tend to be the same. You're going to get diarrhea, but it's going to be the most common side effect either way. And so you could take these things and believe that you can reverse insulin resistance with that, while at the same time you're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, sitting on your tushki all day long, you know, being sedentary, eating whatever comes across your field of vision, or just not paying that much attention. And so these small details really become a distraction from the big drivers of health there. So people are chasing comfort, not so much change, because change can be uncomfortable. So
change is almost always uncomfortable.
Yeah. And so you're going to kind of default to what you've always done, typically doing what's popular or easy. Like your friend tried this, and so let's hop on this bandwagon. Maybe this will work and maybe that'll work. And that's not what actually works. What works is the boring stuff, the stuff that's been around, time tested, proven. These fundamentals really create 80% of the health change.
I'm really glad that nobody ever tied Tide Pods to diabetes.
Oh, jeez.
Blood sugar control.
I don't even know what all that was about. Man, I feel too old to understand that whole trend.
That's almost ancient history in our kids' perspective.
Yeah.
So what's the cost of this misplaced focus?
I think the cost is that people just stay in that cycle. They stay in the cycle of fixating on things that make you feel productive, but don't actually create change. They don't create the outcomes that you're looking for. And so you could get exhausted. You might say, like, things that I hear, like, I don't understand. Like, I'm doing everything right. To be in the role of a diabetes educator day in and day out, you would think people have these pristine diets. And it's because they think that what they're doing is the thing. They think I'm doing everything right. Why isn't it working? But they're not doing the right things right. And listen, if that is you listening, you're like, oh no, please know, it's not your fault. I am not trying to call anyone out. You've been told that health is being about perfect or about being extreme, about doing this kind of diet or that kind of diet. And people who have diabetes or prediabetes are some of the most heavily marketed to people in existence. Like, I hear people say, I cut carbs, I cut out all the sugar, or like I cut out the joy of living and the joy of socializing through meals. And with today's marketing, people have been conditioned to chase symptoms instead of root causes. And what really burns my biscuits is that marketing has even changed recently, and they've been really using the words root cause. And it's like, no, it's not root cause at all. It's putting that paint on the cracked foundation. And I hate it because I see people then lose hope, because all that effort just really isn't moving the needle. And that's where I see people just fit to be tied, just completely burn out. And make no mistake, the wellness industry is profiting from this. They sell this illusion that you're one special ingredient, just do this one thing. How many times have we said that?
Yeah, I think if there's a kind of a trend, it's that it's new, right? That there's a never before,
this must at least
adopted at large diet or supplement or ingredient, or we just found this compound in the Amazon, or something. Like that there's an idea that finally there's an easy and simple solution, meanwhile ignoring what has been tried and true best practices for forever.
It's very distracting, and it's going to distract people. It's going to distract you, listener. It's going to distract you from the real 20% that drives results.
So what is that 20%? We've talked about the 80%. What is the 20% as it relates to diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes remission?
Here's the cool thing. It's more simple than people think. And I think a phrase we have really coined often is simple but not easy.
Yeah, I don't know if we coined it, but we say it a lot.
I'm claiming it. We say it a lot.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah, we are not the original people that said that. I'm certain of it. But it's really first about consistent and balanced meals. So that means not perfect, not keto, not clean eating, I'm referring to meals that are built on real food, protein, fiber, colorful produce, eat the rainbow, and non-refined carbs.
Can you go over for a new listener what non-refined carbs are?
No, forget it. Yeah. Non-refined carbs are, when we talk in our fiber episode, that the wheat grain, that you've got that wheat germ in there that contains the majority of the vitamins and the nutrition and a little tiny bit of protein, even a little tiny bit of fat. And it's a whole nutritious wheat grain. Then you run it through the mill and you crush it and you smash it and you strip the bran off of it. You take away all the fiber. And then when they originally did this, people were showing up with nutrition deficiencies. So we add the vitamins back in. So that's your refinement process.
So specific, I think if we're going to call out a big one, if you're looking on the list of ingredients and you see enriched wheat flour, there's probably an opportunity to find, it's not saying that's bad or going to be your doom, but there's an opportunity to find something better, something maybe that has a whole wheat source or a less refined source. Okay.
I love it. I love hearing you say that. The student has become the teacher.
You have taught me well.
Yeah, and so it's this sound nutrition principles are where the research always lands. You've got the DASH diet, which is dietary approach to stop hypertension, the American Institute for Cancer Research, eatright.org, which is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics website. They all converge on the same fundamentals. And I think that's a very important point because oftentimes we hear like nutrition, it's always changing. No, it's not always changing. What's changing are the fads. What's changing is the marketing of the quote unquote wellness industry.
The new diet.
It is not the American Heart Association and the American Institute for Cancer Research that's changing. That their guidelines have been I know because I did slideshows, old PowerPoints of things from the DASH diet and the American Institute for Cancer Research. And in our cancer and diabetes episode, we talked about avoid processed meats. That was before Judah was even born, our son, who's 18 years old. So these things are tried and true. There are a few tweaks and changes as the research, any kind of compelling research that comes out on it, we would change that. Not me, the powers that be. But this is tested and true. Eat more vegetables, more fruits, more beans and legumes, which means beans essentially. Whole
waiting
grains.
To see how long we could get into the episode before saying eat more beans.
You're right. Not long. Limit ultra processed foods, limit added sugars. Those habits alone will get you that 20%. You focus on those things, your 20% is covered. And they're going to account for the majority of improvements in blood pressure, A1C, cholesterol, your weight. I could continue.
So nutrition's one kind of pillar of that. that 20%.
You see, I got fired up when we went there. Okay.
Yeah. What else is there?
Next,
what is on the 20%?
Movement. You're gonna want to focus on that. And again, the same with nutrition. We weren't talking about fasting or any kind of chaos, not being perfect. I'm not talking about marathons. Yeah. I'm talking about just regular, consistent activity. Walking after meals is a great place to start.
How long walking after meals?
The research supports benefit with even 2 minutes, but I would say 10 to 20 minutes would be great. Okay. 30 minutes would be even better. Lifting weights a few times a week, standing more instead of sitting. So the data out there shows that even 150 minutes of moderate activity a week, which would be 30 minutes a day, about 5 days a week, so you could even have rest days, dramatically lowers diabetes and heart disease risk. So you can't beat it.
Okay. I think everything that you've recommended is doable, at least something that people can work towards.
definitely something people can work towards if they're not there yet, especially the standing more piece or just more movement, even if they're confined to a
Yeah.
chair, moving your upper body more.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, exactly. Just if you can, even just getting up periodically is meaningful from
Yes,
what that's doing to your.
and it's all cumulative. I think people believe they have to do this one big crazy effort all at once, but it's really about where are you doing more, doing more. And we're going into like past podcast episodes, so we'll get back to this. So you want to pair movement with balanced meals because you really want to start fixing this foundation where your insulin sensitivity can increase, your muscle mass can increase, fat oxidation improve. And so when I say fat oxidation, I mean like your body becomes better at using stored energy. And another word for stored energy is fat. It's a nice way of saying fat, stored energy. Although you can store energy as glycogen, glucose stored as glycogen. But improving fat oxidation means you're tapping into fat stores for energy more than relying primarily on glucose for energy.
And that fat utilization for those that are not currently exercising usually occurs at lower intensity levels. So the entry level stuff that we're talking about, specifically walking, is a good way to utilize some of that stored energy. It really is. I would say, as long as we're talking 80-20 of the movement stuff, there's just as many fat exercises. I've seen the people suspended from the roof in the gym doing the bounce. Any of the things that you see online.
Beach muscle versus your big movers.
I'm going to go ahead and say just walking is 80% of your movement solution. There's some high intensity stuff that you need to do and certainly some weight bearing activity. But as far as something that you probably need to be doing every single day, really getting into that habit of regularly walking. And again, if you really want to optimize it after your meals, that is most of what's going to get you moving in the right direction as it relates to controlling that blood sugar.
That is the truth.
Okay, so we talked about nutrition, we talked about movement. Is there anything else in that 20%?
Yep. It would be sleep.
Okay.
Sleep. The most underrated metabolic tool that we have.
Okay.
Like anything less than 6 hours a night is going to be increasing what we talked about in the last episode, that hunger monster. His name is ghrelin. It's a he, by the way. I'm just kidding. That hunger hormone ghrelin, which makes you feel it's really going to wreak havoc. And when you don't get enough sleep, you're putting yourself at risk for more blood sugar spikes and a delayed loss of fat. Even after just one night, you can have some detrimental effects. Even if your diet is good, if you're not sleeping well and sleeping enough, you could have some detrimental effects there.
I actually have some personal experience with this. I've had blood work done after a night of bad sleep, and it did not look good the following day. It was an outlier on what's been at least somewhat normative, blood sugar ranges. That was an uncomfortable conversation coming home with that particular blood work.
Listen to Richie blaming the gummy bears on the sleep.
You just got done saying that bad sleep increases my blood sugar, slows fat loss, even after one night. I think that's exactly what you said, if I recall. Okay. So yes, I do blame the bad night of sleep for my one outlying bad blood sugar report.
Okay, moving right along from whether is it the gummy bears or the sleep? We'll cover that in a different podcast. So stress is another one. Chronic stress. You got to laugh and have fun when you do silly podcasts so that chronic stress doesn't keep your body in this fight or flight mode. When you're in that fight or flight mode, cortisol goes up. Glucose goes up right along with it. Cravings go up right in step. And on the flip side of that, you find a way to manage your stress I think it's important to say that there are stressors regardless of who you are. There's really big stressors, really small stressors, and then there's the way you respond to them. You can see someone else going through stresses that seem like something you would minimize because that's not anything to you, but you have different things. It's all in how you react to that stress that gives you good outcomes or bad outcomes. Stress management is huge. All that to just say stress management is very important. Getting some relief from that through whether it be walking, breathing, journaling, prayer, outdoor time, whatever you find really helps you, using those as metabolic interventions to reduce that cortisol.
Okay. So the right 20% when we talk about diabetes remission is quality of food, increased movement,
Yep.
adequate rest, stress management, and mindset.
I like that. You did a good summary. And so the goal is to repeat these fundamentals every day, not going to this extreme every once in a while, like every January, let me do this, or now I'm going to go to this intermittent fasting because I feel like I'm getting heavier. So now it's time to start that intermittent fasting again. Now it's time to do this. Yes, I guess it is important to kind of gauge and like, oh, I've been eating way too many sweets lately. Let me cut that back. Yes, you do want to do that, but it's really about the consistent things that you do day in and day out that makes the biggest difference.
Okay. So I'm going to throw some things out there.
Okay.
That I think are probably in the wrong 80%. And
this is fun. Okay.
Yeah. So you tell me if I got this right, if this is in the wrong 80%, and if it's not, please correct me. But if it is in the wrong 80%, can you maybe expand a little bit on why this doesn't matter as much as some people think?
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. I only eat organic.
Oh, okay. Something I hear very often. And here's the truth. Like, if choosing organic means you're eating more fruits, more vegetables, more beans, great. But that label organic doesn't automatically mean healthy. I think that's where people can go wrong. If they see organic and think if I choose this, then it automatically equals healthy. What organic actually does mean is that it was grown or produced without most synthetic pesticides or fertilizers and cannot use GMOs or genetically modified organisms. That's it. Doesn't mean it's lower calories, lower sugar, lower carbs, lower sodium. It absolutely does not mean that it's better for your blood sugar.
You're suggesting that my Trader Joe's organic gummy bears are not good for my blood sugar.
They have the same amount of carbs, probably. I'd have to look at the label, but probably organic sugar is still sugar, last time I checked. So organic cookies, still cookies. Same thing with your, Trader Joe's gummy bears. Ultra processed snacks are still ultra processed.
And usually people are paying more for these organic products, right?
Yeah, often. And you'll have to tell me with your gummy bear price comparison. But this might be different because Trader Joe's versus Publix, which already is different. But often.
You're just lucky I'm not going shopping for gummy bears at Sam's, getting them things in bulk.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Is that why you wanted to do this? Okay, yeah. In terms of them costing more, it's usually somewhere between 30% to 100%, like twice as much for the exact same nutrition. So you've got multiple studies that support that on average, there's no meaningful difference in vitamins, minerals, or overall nutritional quality between organic and conventional produce. Like the main difference is sometimes the pesticide residue. And the truth is, if you wash it, it's coming out a little more even still. But Even conventional non-organic produce is well within the established safety limits. So if your goal is diabetes remission or better metabolic health, spending extra on organic versions of the food is just not going to really get you there. What matters is that you're buying more fruits and vegetables more than if you're buying more organic fruits and vegetables. So you want to really prioritize the real food first, whether that's conventional or organic. You want to eliminate those ultra processed things. Fresh or frozen produce is best. Getting your beans, lentils, whole grains, eggs, those are going to give you the most nutrition for the cost, because we're talking about the organic being up to twice the cost. And if you do want to buy organic, and this is what I really made you do like 10 years ago, I was like, you've got to buy, like if you're going to buy strawberries or you're going to buy apples, you've got to do organic, because they were part of that kind of dirty dozen that came out. That was like, these are the ones that tend to have more pesticide residue on them. So again, that would be strawberries, spinach, apples, bell peppers. But if you've got a thicker skinned produce, especially like bananas, you're going to peel that skin off anyway. So who cares if there's more pesticide residue on the outside? Same with avocados or onions or oranges. You're peeling off that outer layer that could have the pesticide on it anyway. And in modern times, especially, that organic label has turned into a marketing tool. And it makes people feel like they're making a superior choice, even when the nutrition, the impact on blood sugar is exactly the same as the non-organic version. And sometimes I've even seen it where they use that label to actually do harm, because if that higher price tag means people buy less fruits and vegetables, then they're getting less fruits and vegetables. Yeah. And that's problematic. Yeah. So really want to just eat more plants, focus on variety, and you're doing the 80% of what matters.
Okay. All right. So I've got another one, and this one I think is more related to even the stuff that I've heard surrounding diabetes. I'm cutting out all fruit because of the sugar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you don't want to do that. So where this came from is, in some studies, fructose was the beginning products of fatty liver. Like it had more to do with fatty liver.
It's the first part of high fructose corn syrup.
Thank you for spoiling my... Yeah, I know. You're right. That's exactly it. It was the high fructose corn syrup that was contributing to this sugar overload and the fructose in the liver that was doing that. Fruit was not the problem, because fruit is the perfect nutritional package. It's loaded with fiber, water, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, those natural compounds that give fruit their color and their ability to help heal cancer and help with oxidation, all those things.
You've talked about phytonutrients before. Can you go over that just a little bit, just so we know?
Yeah. So we know what nutrients are. They're the macro and micro. So macros would be protein, carbs, fat. Micro would be your vitamins and minerals. So those are your nutrients. And phyto means plant. So it's plant nutrients that have compounds like flavonoids, anthocyanins, carotenoids. They are the things that make blueberries blue, oranges orange. So the carotenoids are what makes oranges orange. And they give that deep color to berries, cherries, pomegranates, those things. And they do incredible things in the body. They help reduce inflammation, improve the way that your cells respond to insulin. They can support gut health and even help protect against heart disease. And I mentioned before, a huge thing that phytonutrients do is help prevent cancer. And you don't get that from what I call hummingbird water or high fructose. You don't get that from sugar water and white bread. It's just not there.
Monster Energy for those that are listening.
Ooh, oh, you're hurting some feelings, Richie.
So
Hurting some feelings.
when people cut out fruit, they're missing out on a lot of other stuff.
They're cutting out hundreds of beneficial plant compounds that actually help with blood sugar control. When you eat fruit in its natural form, and by the natural form, what I mean is not juiced, not packaged and dried and sold as some superfood supplement compound with added sugar, but in the whole fruit, the fiber is what can slow down digestion and prevent big blood sugar spikes, and it can help keep you fuller for longer. So it's really about the dose and the context. So having 1 or 2 servings of fruit with a meal or as a snack that includes protein or fat is completely different than drinking fruit juice or eating a giant fruit smoothie on an empty stomach. The way that your blood sugar responds, the way that it gets digested, these things are very different. And whole fruit fits beautifully into diabetes remission. Like it fits into the plan that goes along with that, especially your berries, apples, pears, oranges, golden kiwi, one of my favorites there.
Yeah, we've been on a golden kiwi kick here of late. They're awesome. And you can eat the whole thing. You don't have to peel them like a regular kiwi. So.
Rich in fiber. And so those are going to be less likely to spike glucose.
So fruit is not bad. It's actually part of the 20% that's going to move this thing in the right direction.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but, and I'm doing this in air quotes, I'm taking berberine instead of metformin.
Okay. That feels like a personal attack. Not personal. I just hear it so much, especially lately. It's being marketed as nature's metformin. Very clever marketing, not scientific. And I did absolutely talk about this earlier. Berberine can mildly lower blood sugar in some studies, but it is not a replacement for metformin. Absolutely, definitely not a replacement for the lifestyle changes that actually can reverse insulin resistance. Yeah. So just like metformin, as I said before, one of the most common side effects, diarrhea. Because remember, it's a supplement. Supplements are not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration like prescriptions are. So the dose, the purity, even what is actually in that capsule can vary wildly. So if someone wants metformin type results, they'll get far more benefit and far more consistency by focusing on nutrition, movement, sleep, weight management, not an unregulated pill that mimics one tiny piece of the puzzle.
Okay. What about I switched my table salt for sea salt?
Sure. Do it. Knock yourself out. But it is not lowering your blood pressure if your diet's still high in sodium and low in potassium rich foods, your fruits, your veggies.
So is the 20% that is good for one person 20 the same for everybody, or does it vary from individual to individual?
It's pretty close to the same, and it varies. So
yes and no.
Yes and no. I would say those general principles are pretty much the same. And the part where the reason I said and it varies is people's tastes in foods vary. Yeah. People's ability to move and lift and their lifestyle completely varies. Someone who is caring for an elderly parent or a sick child, like their priorities are going to be in a completely different space. They have it. So it's just going to have to be tailored to the individual, what someone decides to focus on. And there are seasons for everything as well. It may have been that your top priority was just surviving, just being able to get up. And we've talked to a lot of people who have suffered bouts of major depression. And
yeah, really common.
And sometimes it's a win if you got out of bed and you washed a dish or you fed yourself. You can't say to that person that they have goals that are similar to somebody who is not in that same depressive state.
Yeah.
So that's why I say yes and no. I wasn't trying to skirt it. It's just different for everyone. And so I think if you're actually trying to find what your personal 20% looks like, you could begin by asking questions. I think that's a great place to begin, as always, by getting curious.
Yeah.
So what you could ask, what am I spending energy on that isn't changing my blood sugar numbers, my energy levels, or my mood? And then from there, ask, what is one small high impact habit that I could repeat every day for the next month? And for some people, it's walking 2 minutes after dinner. For some people, it's getting in the gym and lifting heavy weights more often in a safe way. For others, it's going to be eating a balanced breakfast instead of skipping it.
Going from 0 fruits and vegetables to 1 fruit and vegetable a day.
Yeah.
Something
like if I ask this question of myself, some days, not all, but some days I get just caught up in work and it's 11 o'clock and I've only had coffee. Like that is my Achilles heel. Some days I really try to be better at that and not do it, but I have found myself doing that. So more consistency in having something earlier on. And oftentimes that means I'm taking a pear to go row, or I'm fixing something with protein right when I get in the house. Yeah.
So not creating an expectation that I'm going to change everything overnight, but being aware of where I'm at and pick one of those items on the 20% that actually make this better. And what would it look better? If I'm averaging 5 hours of sleep a night, what would it look like 5:30? It's not perfect, but that's still meaningful increase.
Progress,
in the amount,
not perfection.
That I'm getting
Another term we use often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said this once in our podcast that people used to come to me, or they would not schedule with me right away. They would schedule something like 3 weeks out because they wanted to eat everything in the pantry first, get it all. So they were ready for this total overhaul. And that is not, you could do that, I guess, but really it's some people need to do that. They need to get everything out. But I would say, is trash in your body, trash in the trash can? What's the difference? But consistency is going to beat intensity. And that's the way that you build momentum. So once you start seeing changes like more steady blood sugars, more energy, better sleep, that builds upon itself. That's what really makes you want to expand. And okay, what's the next thing I can do? That was pretty easy. What's the next thing? Yeah. Because it's about creating these small habits for big effect over time, these consistent small wins that stack really quickly. Because when people really focus on, instead of the 10 to 15 grams of fiber that the general American population gets in their diet, focusing on 25 to 35 and beyond grams of fiber, it pushes out some of the more processed, more highly processed, junky type foods. Yeah. And when you focus on moving more every day, standing more, getting enough sleep, managing stress, those are the things that really make remission possible. That's what takes it from this pipe dream pie in the sky and puts it squarely in front of your face as a reality that is possible. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Having those things so that you can decrease medications that you're on. You can start to feel more energy, which creates more energy, and confidence grows. That is a big payoff of focusing on the right 20%.
Okay, we try and have a single takeaway on just about every episode that we do. For those that are new to the podcast and are looking for one thing that they can do this week and really every week going forward, because we are talking about the 20% of kind of boring, everybody knows stuff, not flashy because it's been around forever and it's just been generally good health advice forever. What's one way that they can apply some of those small improvements in one of those areas this week to start moving this thing in the right direction?
Yep. So get curious. We said before, like really look at what's your 20%. Where can you really focus and start small? Maybe it's the structure of your meals. Maybe it's incorporating more movement every day, or maybe having a more structured evening routine that sets you up for success the very next day. The thing that I do know is you don't need another detox. You don't need another supplement. You need focus.
Yeah.
So when you stop fixing these or stop going after these little dopamine hits of I'll buy this one thing and do and then maybe that's it. Maybe this is the thing that I've been missing. And you recenter and focus on what's going to move the needle, what's going to be the big driver. That's really powerful stuff. So
I've just noticed none of the stuff in the 20% that actually makes a difference comes in a bottle.
No, or a pill.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with any kind of labs, at least not at this point. Labs are like, so I run a health panel and then I sell you all these supplements from the labs. Like what? Why would somebody do labs other than to try to sell you a supplement based on some made up deficiency that they've created? So they do the labs to create a problem that you didn't even know you had before and then sell you the supplement to fix the problem. Like when you see your doctor, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your A1C, those matter. Those labs matter. But these one-off, it's your thyroid. Like it might be, but you know who would diagnose that?
Your physician.
Endocrinologist. Yeah, your primary care who would send you to an endocrinologist.
If your numbers are bad, it's probably going to come up in the course of your ordinary blood work.
Yes. Yes. Take us home, Richie.
Yeah. So start small. A 1% improvement. If you're currently walking 2,000 steps a day, a 1% improvement is 2,020. That's still better. You still walked further. And if you improve that 1% a day, that adds up over time.
Yep. I don't even want to do the math on what that would be.
If my retirement account grew by 1% a day, I'd be in some good shape. Yeah, that'd be great.
No kidding. Talk about
but when you talk about 1% improvements, that's meaningful.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a place to start. To look at that 20. Again, if I recall correctly, we had the adequate nutrition, increased movement, adequate sleep, stress, and mindset really are what's going to, over time, you in the right direction. It's not easy, but it is pretty simple.
And we say over time, that can be fast or slow. We've seen these changes in as few as 3 months. We've seen these changes in as few as 2 weeks, but like really phenomenal changes in 3 months. It just depends on how much momentum gets built from those small changes in the beginning.
Okay. I think that's it.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning into the Diabetes Podcast, and we'll talk to you again next week. If today's episode helps you refocus your health goals, share it with someone who's stuck in the wrong 80%. And remember, you don't need a perfect plan. You just need the right priorities. That's how real change happens. Until next time, take courage. You can do this, and we can help.